You one of the sections in the book you talk about. I believe the person's name was Lunchbox.
Lunch bucket.
Lunch bucket. Right.
Poor old lunch bucket.
Since we're talking about work environments, and there's that certain level of camaraderie, and you actually talk about the SEAL teams in here, where you just have this. It's like and I've talked about this before in the SEAL teams. It's nonstop, hyper verbal abuse, aggression around the clock, 24 hours a day. You're in a SEAL platoon. Like that's life. Yeah. Any mistake that you make, any display of weakness is going to be pounced upon and ripped apart. It's going to be ripped apart.
Yeah. And then if you get all irritated about that, it's even worse, man. Then you're just dead.
The nicknames, you talked about Lunch Bucket. Your nickname was Howdy Doody, and then it got shortened to Howdy, which was you felt pretty good about.
That was better.
Yeah, because you went from Howdy Doody, which is kind of
that wasn't so good,
to Howdy, which is kind of cool, right? As a Western guy, whatever.
Right.
But the nicknames that are in the SEAL teams, like I can't with good conscience repeat them.
I'm sure that's
because
true.
they're just horrible names. Yeah. But there's a camaraderie around that, and there's also as I was reading what you had written about these guys working on a railway crew.
Yeah.
There's a test. It's a test. Yeah. It's a test to see where you're at,
That's
what
right.
you're made of.
That's right. Can we rely on you? Can you tolerate a little bit of irritation? If the answer to that is no, it's like, well, maybe we don't want you around then, because some irritating things are likely to come down the pipe.
Yeah, and it's not just to me it proves if you've got someone that can take it, right? It's not just that they can take some random joking insults, like they can take it. They can take it.
Yeah, that's what you're testing for. Yeah. It's like, can you take it? Lunch Bucket couldn't, right? Because people would laugh at his lunch bucket and he'd get all upset. It's like, well, you have a stupid lunch bucket. It's like, your mom packed it. How about it? You laugh at yourself. Yeah, my mom packed this. I know it's kind of stupid. That would have been the end of it. He would have just had to say that.
Yeah.
It's like, but I didn't want to hurt her feelings. It's like, oh, okay, fine. You got your stupid lunch bucket. But no, he couldn't handle that. So yeah, it was horrible and comical to watch at the same time, because the level of, and people have written me about that and they said, oh, poor lunch bucket. It's like, because they're all compassionate. I think, no, not poor lunch bucket. It's like, clue the hell in, buddy. You had your chance. That was a desirable job, that rail crew job in the summer, because it was high paying, and they weren't easy to come by, those jobs. And so the fact that he got hired onto that crew was a real opportunity for him. You could make a pile of money in the summer at working on the rail crew. And all you had to do was take some ribbing with good grace, not suck up to the management too badly, and not have other people do your job. That was all. That was all you had to do. But he couldn't do that, and so he got run off. And it was like, grow the hell up, buddy. These guys, when 100 people are teasing you, then probably they're not wrong.
Yeah, when you are getting teased like that as well, when you stop reacting, it's no longer fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it also gives you an opportunity to tease back. It's like, because you can show your wit. And one of the things that working class guys in particular, which is one of the things I really loved about working class jobs, is they're always looking for some humor. So it's like, if person A is teasing person B, that's kind of comical. But if person B comes back with a good comeback, it's like, that's even better, So I think that's a lot of how those jobs are rendered tolerable, right? They're hard, dirty jobs.
Right.
Dishwasher's a good example. That's not dangerous. Although cooking is you got to watch your step. I got burnt a lot when I was cooking. But what makes those jobs not only tolerable but even desirable is that you can develop a tremendous amount of camaraderie around them. I've never really experienced that at a professional level job. That just doesn't happen the same way. And there's a real loss in that. So it's fun to be part of a team that's doing, grubby, hands-on things and having a ridiculously entertaining, vicious, cruel, and evil time while you're doing it. That's very entertaining.
This new kids book I wrote. So the kid Mark, he's getting made fun of by this. He's a different kind of bully. He's like a mental bully that verbally abuses people, and he gets called plate face by this character. And eventually he gets in trouble for throwing something at the kid because he's calling him plate face. But eventually the way he befriends the kid is by they have to do a self-portrait in class, and he draws a picture of himself looking like a plate, and he shows it to the kid, and the kid laughs, and all of a sudden they're buddies, and it's like that's what you do. You take away the joy of being so heated and irritated by people that are making fun of you, and you just kill it right there.
Jiu-jitsu in some sense. Well, I had an experience with that about 3 years ago. I put my videos up online, and people kept saying that I sounded like Kermit. And I thought, well, one person said it, and I thought, well, whatever. But then like 5 people said it, and I thought, oh my God, like this Kermit thing. So then I went and listened to Kermit, and I thought, oh no, it's like really, I really sound like Kermit, you know. And so then I started to play with it a little bit, you know. I used the puppet, and when I went to speak to university students, and I made frog jokes, and then I made a couple of videos that sort of featured me as a frog, and I mean it's crazy, right? It's ridiculous, but the teasing never got mean because of that, you know.
Yeah.
And the same things happened online to a larger degree as people keep making memes of me. Like, and there's lots of them. There's way too many to even keep track of. And I was watching that happen, and I thought, okay, this is a good thing because there's humor, and wherever there's humor, that's a good thing. And they're making fun of me, but it's gentle. You know, most of it was pokey, you know, like, well, you sound like this damn puppet. What do you think of that? It's like, well, if I had to pick someone to sound like, it probably wouldn't be a puppet. But if it had to be a puppet, Kermit's not a bad one. It could be a lot worse. Like, it could be Miss Piggy. That could have been that, you know, so thank God that didn't happen. But the memes have never got vicious because, you know, I'll post them if they're funny and satirical, and then they won't get vicious because they don't have to. It's like, can we poke fun at you? It's like, yeah, please do. And the more the better, really, because that'll also help keep my feet on the ground and keep me awake. And plus it's funny. And like, one of the things about life is that a sense of humor, that's a good thing to arm yourself with, because sometimes you just don't have anything other than that. Like my daughter, when she recounts the horrors of her adolescence. She had to have her hip and her ankle replaced because they both deteriorated beyond repair, beyond the possibility of repair. And she was like in agony literally for years. It was just awful. She can tell that story in a way that will just make you die of laughter. And it's like, well, thank God for that, because what else do you have in a situation like that, man? And sometimes it's so dark that your sense of humor is just about gone, and then you're in real trouble. But lots of times, that's what you've got against the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. It's like, and you see this with people, especially people who've been through really hard times and that are witty. Like, things will be bleak, and they'll crack a joke, and you think, well, thank God, man, you can pop up above that and see above it a bit, and like, you know, tap it with a bit of irony, and thank God for that. So when the comedians start to get silenced, there's real trouble. And that's been happening to some degree in Canada. And, you know, comedians are increasingly not willing to go speak on university campuses, And that's, when the comedians can't talk, that's a really bad sign. Because that's the triumph of the human spirit over adversity, right? That's why guys in these horrible jobs are often so unbelievably funny. It's like, well, what else do they have? You know, and actually that's a lot to be funny like that. That can move you through a lot of dismal. So,
you know, I'm paying attention to time because I know, in case someone can't tell, that we're by an airport right now. But to kind of bring this a little bit too close. First of all, we didn't cover anything that I wanted to cover today, so we should all know that. So you're coming back again. I often
do that with my talks. It's like, oh, that's not the talk I planned.
Well, yeah, your first biblical talk, you covered the first line of Genesis, right? You made it one line deep in 2.5 hours. I know. Well done.
Yeah. I thought, oh, yeah.
But one of the things, and I think it's a good note to end on at least a little bit, to touch on, because you're kind of talking about it right now, is, you know, the last rule is to pet a cat when you encounter one on the street.
Yeah.
It's basically find a little bit of joy in these common things.
You bet. It's a chapter about my daughter's experience, and like, it was brutal, man. It was brutal. She was literally walking around on 2 broken legs for 2 years, and she had to take incredibly high doses of opiates, and so had all the problems that went along with that. She had to take Ritalin to stay awake. It's like, and she was, in all likelihood, she was dying. There's a bunch of reasons for that. And those were just some of her health problems. Those weren't even the worst ones, strangely enough. So it was bloody brutal, man. And one of the things we told her, and we managed this, thank God, is I told her once the disease started to develop, she had rheumatoid arthritis very, very seriously. I said to her when she was a little kid, said, look, kid, this is going to be rough, man. This is going to be rough. And here's what you could do to make it worse. It's like, use your illness as an excuse. You do that at your peril. You do that 100 times. You will not be able to tell the difference between suffering that stops you from moving forward and an excuse for not living, and you'll be done. I said, never, never, never use your illness as an excuse. Like, if you can't do it, you can't do it. We had a good experience with that. It's written in the book when we bought her a scooter because she couldn't use public transportation, and we were all freaked out about that because, like, well, she has damaged bones and a broken hip and all of this. It's like, you're going to buy that kid a scooter? Really? It's like, well, what are you going to do? Keep her in her bedroom? You want to think that's a good idea? Tell her she can't go out in the world? It's like, have the damn scooter. So after a while, she had to get a license for it. There's a licensing procedure, and to do that, she actually had to ride a motorbike. And so she trained to ride the motorbike, like, not very long after she had her hip replaced. I think it was 6 weeks, something like that. So, of course, we're all freaked out about that, too, because it's like, oh, man, she has to ride a motorbike, and she has this hip. And it's like, what are we going to do? And she went and she did the motorcycle, the first one. But she dropped the bike a couple of times, and some kid wiped out and rolled like 30 feet, and that kind of freaked her out, unsurprisingly. So in the second day, she went with her mom to do the motorcycle training. She also got trained to ride a motorcycle. And the second day, she woke up and she said, I don't think I can do this. And we thought, well, that's understandable. It's like, I can understand that. And we talked through it. And we said, look, here's what to do, man. It's like, yeah, you can't do it. We understand why you're afraid of it. You can't hold the bike up that well. But why don't you just go? Like, go in the car with your mom and see how you feel when you get there. Because you'll get close and you get right up to it. Maybe you can say no and you have to sit in the car and, like, that's life and we get it. But maybe you don't have to. And she went there. So she thought that was okay. And she went there and she picked up the damn motorbike and got her license. And everybody cheered at the end. And then she could drive her goddamn scooter around, and thank God for that. Because, she used to go out there and she'd put on her helmet and she'd go on her scooter and she was like ready to go out in the world. And so that's the difference between making your kids safe and making them strong. And it was touch and bloody go, because it could have easily been that she would have been in a little accident with her motorcycle and broken her leg, and then we would have thought, oh, what kind of horrible parents are we? She's already got problems, and we put her on a damn scooter in the middle of the city. It's like, well, you're going to be competent or you're going to be safe. It's like, there's nothing safer than competence. And it was great for her because it was just one more act of courage, and she loved that damn scooter. She had it for like 6 years, and it was a really good idea. Risky as hell, but really a good idea. So, yeah.